Hello, everybody. Hello, DSLR Dave and L. Good to see you today. And let me ask you this. Have you heard the story of the straight tree and the crooked tree? Ooh, pronunciation problems today. I read it, and I believe, if memory serves, it's on page 412 of Low Side of the Road, A Life of Tom Waits. So let's have a look and read it in his exact words. I think I'm going to memorize it in his exact words. And I think this will help relieve a lot of stress in a lot of people who get this story and understand it. So, the story of the crooked tree and the straight tree is like this. Every day, the straight tree would say to the crooked tree, "Look at me. I'm tall and I'm straight and I'm handsome. You're all crooked and bent over. No one wants to look at you." And one day the loggers came and saw the crooked tree and the straight tree, and they said, "Just cut down the straight trees and leave the rest." The loggers turned all the straight trees into lumber and toothpicks and paper, but the crooked tree is still there, growing stronger and stranger every day. Isn't that a beautiful story? It's a very beautiful story, and it's in Low Side of the Road here, A Life of Tom Waits by Barney Hoskins. This is really good, and one of the things I love about it is it catalogs some of his songs in the best possible way. If you're joining us, hit the thumbs up. Let me know where you are in the world, what you're doing, what you're thinking. And we got a great amount of people here already. We're going to talk about reducing stress with memory palaces. And this is something that's been essential to me because, the ancient art of memory had something to do with reducing stress because we wanted to remember things in order to be able to survive so that we could remember where the plants were during a drought that wouldn't poison us, so that we could be able to have the best possible medicines and not, die, basically. And so memory has always been essential to this, but also memory is a part of our chants, our way of relaxing the mind. And there's some very, very tried and true and established ways to do it. And we're going to talk about creating a memory palace, very simple memory palace, just like this, and some things you can do with those memory palaces in order to reduce stress, to reduce anxiety. So please say hello in the chat if this sounds good to you, and hit the thumbs up, and get subscribed if you're new here. Jing Guy is here from New York. Whereabouts in New York? I used to live in Washington Heights, up on the northern part there of Manhattan. Great to meet with you today. Thanks for being here. Thanks for saying hello. And the memory palace technique, for those who are new to it, who don't know it, is we're just going to take simple locations like rooms. And then to reduce stress, we're going to remember certain things. And we can be very simple or we can be very advanced with this. But those things are scientifically proven to help reduce stress and anxiety. And if you would like to check this out, look up Tim Dalglish's study on the method of Loki for doing this. And method of Loki is another word for memory palace. In some senses, it's used a little bit differently, but overall, it's the same term. And it is essentially taking, or loci is how it's sometimes pronounced by people. I think correctly it's pronounced loci, but sometimes it just comes out spontaneously, low-key. But in any case, what we want to do is take locations and weave them together with information that helps us recall what it is that we wanted to do. And one of the things that's so interesting about Tim Dalglish's research into the method of loci for reducing stress, for dealing with PTSD symptoms and all this sort of stuff, is that it makes you feel better. And you don't have to have problems in order to feel better. You could feel better just by doing it to feel better. And so the basics, and something that he shows and demonstrates, and we see in his research play out again and again and again, is that if you just take 4 positive memories and you put them in a memory palace, and then you revisit them, you will feel better. Now the question is, why will you feel better? Well, a lot of the brain has chemicals that we don't fully, thoroughly understand, but there may be some neurogenesis involved, which means that we're creating new cells in the neural networks, which will feel good. Then there's dopamine and myelin and maybe some norepinephrine and all these opioid receptors opening up and firing. Anyway, I talk more about the science in a new book called The Victorious Mind, And thanks to everybody who has been getting the pre-order of the Kindle. Really appreciate that. And for those of you who have been doing that, make sure that you send in your receipt so I can send you the free How to Stop Thinking course, which a lot of people have told me they are enjoying. And yeah, there's a lot of activities coming up around that. So if you're interested in a fuller explanation of the science along with more training, then please grab that. Now, in order to start thinking about this, just as a simple exercise, participate in the chat if you want. Take a room, and if you can draw right now, draw a square based on a room. And I mean, really, just make it simple. Make it as simple as possible. Don't overthink it. If you can't draw right now, you can just simply mentally draw. Imagine you have a piece of paper in your hand and you're drawing the square that represents a room. It can be the room you're in now. It could be a car, whatever it is, you know, and you can be more advanced, of course, like this with different shapes inside the room and so forth, but just be simple about it for the purposes of this exercise and draw a square. And then in your first corner of this square, think about a positive, happy memory. It could be, you know, the first thing that comes to my mind is one of my first birthday parties that I remember. It was actually someone else's birthday party, the one that's coming to mind. And they had a quarter cake or money cake, whatever you call it. And you would eat it, and these quarters would be inside wrapped in wax. I think this is probably against the law now, but back then we used to do it. The parents used to do that for the kids, and we had a great time. And that was just a positive memory. So I would put that in this corner. I'll show you a bit later. I think I have on my slides an actual room, how this works out. Anyway, once you have one positive memory, just go ahead and put in another one. So, you know, feel free to participate now or after, if you're watching the replay, in the discussion below and share a positive memory. But the idea is you get a bunch of them together. And then you just shift over to the next corner and put another positive memory. So, I mean, I've done this exercise many, many times, and it feels good. And one of the ones that I like is the day I graduated and got my PhD. And it's not even so much the graduation itself. I remember one of the people, Steve Bailey, who was one of the professors on the examination committee, he was telling me, don't tell people that you're a doctor. Don't use your doctor title. You've got to not do that, because people will then call you for CPR and all that sort of stuff. You need to make sure you just call yourself, you know, professor instead of doctor, which was good advice. So that's something to keep in mind. But anyway, it was a happy memory. And after I got that award, they took me down. You know, we went to a bar, and I did magic tricks for them, and that was a very happy memory. I'm just going to make a quick note here. So this is something very good to do. You have a happy memory. So I imagine myself having a magic trick in this pub with all the professors, and that was very, very fun, happy memory. And I put that in this corner of the room. And then you just carry on and you make another happy memory, just like that. So if you have happy memories all ready to go, just start to think of them. But think of them spatially, and then again you would reproduce it. So now you have a perfect square, right? And it's very, very powerful to do this. Now, we're going to carry on in a minute, and I'm going to show you and take you through this from a different way. So we've had the illustration way, and we are going to then go through with this illustration so you can see it play out in a more proper way. But first, I'm just going to take a quick break to fix the temperature in this room. Stand by and watch someone recite pi from memory. His name is Paul. You're going to love it.
384626 43383279502884197169 399375.
Hi, my name is Paul, and I've taken a few courses by Anthony Metivier, but I felt that the experience of doing it today live was the biggest advantage. Anthony has a gift in simplifying complex concepts, and I feel that I've really come away today with practical skills that I can now use effectively. It was great to immerse ourselves in the situation, to be able to apply the time, because when we're at home we may not take the time to do the memory exercises that we were doing today. I felt particularly that the thing that we did at the end of today was something that is totally unique in memory training, which is 3 days of memory, which is how to practice your skills. I've read many memory books and I've never come across a system laid out as to how to practice what you've learned, and this is what I gained today from Anthony's course. So I give it 10 out of 10. Thank you.
5342117067.
All right. So you can see that you can have positive memories or you can create positive memories because you've gotten an accomplishment. You've been able to actually memorize something, and then you don't have to demonstrate it in front of crowds of people, but you can, and that too can create many, many wonderful, happy, joyful feelings that reduce your stress, help you overcome depression, and so forth. So one of the things that I love to do is memorize information that crushes stress. And how does it crush stress? How does it reduce it? How does it eject it completely from life? Well, one of the ways that it does it is by reminding you of essentially what life really is, which is the now, the present moment. And when you have thoughts, negative thoughts, and so forth that come up, if you have a simple strategy that helps you eliminate them, then you're able to just simply relax. And this is very, very important, to relax and relax and relax. And so we'll talk about some of the things that you can memorize. But if you don't want to do the thing where you memorize positive emotions, then one of the things you do is be a bit more elaborate. I'd still recommend that you do a positive emotion strategy and have it in your toolbox, because sometimes you don't feel like reciting some of the things that we'll talk about today. But you can always certainly have a variety, and that's ultimately what I recommend. So I just want to check in with the chat here. Sean is from New Jersey. Good to see you. And yeah, let's reduce some stress. Thank you for your service in this time. And I know a little bit from what you've told me, and must be quite challenging. So thank you for what you're doing, and let's get that stress gone. Let me know if you have questions as we go through this, and we'll probably repeat some of what we already covered for everybody who's joining us as we go along. And repetition in this case is the mother of learning and remembering and implementing. Damien, thank you for being here. You say, I found walking through my memory palace is a good mindfulness exercise. I walk backwards through a memory palace where I've stored the digits of pi as a way to calm down when I'm falling asleep. Excellent, excellent. So, Damien, how many digits of pi have you done? That's really exciting. It was recently Pi Day, and if you haven't heard on the podcast, Marno Herman was on the previous year, and he had done, he's got a South African record for his pi, and he used the magnetic memory method to help him do that. So you can listen to him recite it, and he recites it really fast. It sounds like, I think it's Afrikaans. It sounds beautiful. Anyway, one of the things that, I've done a lot of work around this, and I've worked primarily from a couple of texts, and one of the main ones is this, which is called Happiness Beyond Thought, and we'll talk a little bit about it. The idea of noticing the body and then noticing the thoughts that are creating stress is a very, very powerful one indeed, because we can intervene and stop it like that. And some of my favorite things come up in a different book that he wrote called Evolving Beyond Thought, which is sort of a follow-up of this, but I'm not sure where exactly it falls in the chronology, but there's sort of a trilogy. So there's Happiness Beyond Thought, there's Dancing Beyond Thought, and Evolving Beyond Thought, where I found some of the most powerful tools. And for some reason, that's where it disappeared to. It's over there. It is just wonderful. And he extracts, Gary Weber, who is the author of these texts, the 32 phrases from the Ribhu Gita. And essentially, just by using this structure, we can place what we want to remember there. Now, why would we do this? Well, for example, I have in my life had a lot of negative thoughts, and those thoughts cause a lot of stress. And it's a bad cycle, because being in stress causes the thoughts, and then the thoughts increase the stress. And so it just gets worse and worse and worse. And for many, many years of my life, it was very difficult to get out of that cycle, because one thing affirms the other. And so because there's mental health issues going on, it's even worse, right? Because certain mental health issues lead to all kinds of suicidal issues and all kinds of stuff. So it was just nightmare, madness. And one of the things that helped so much was just a simple set of questions that I never knew existed. And I made a mistake. So give me a second. I'm going to get Evolving Beyond Thought here. And this mistake was very interesting. In case that wouldn't get caught up, this mistake was very interesting, because at the back of the book is listed all of these chapter headings along with the Sanskrit phrases that I memorized. So I read the book, and then I thought, well, I'll just memorize this stuff from the back. And something in my mind made me think that these English lines were the English translation of the Sanskrit. But these are just the chapter headings in which the Sanskrit is discussed. But this turned out to be a wonderful, wonderful thing, because it focused my mind on essentially the distillation of what the Sanskrit means. And so the first two questions are, and this is so simple you might ignore it, so please don't. I almost ignored it, but I somehow got fascinated and fixated with it, and it reduces stress instantly. So commit this to memory. You don't have to do it in Sanskrit, although I would encourage you to do so. You just do it in English. And it's very simple. Are my thoughts useful? How do they behave? Zoom! That focuses your mind on, well, these thoughts are not helpful at all, right? And then they're behaving like a little child, undisciplined. And this helps them just go away. Now, they might recur again very quickly, but the more you train, the more you practice, the more you're going to be able to just get rid of them instantly. And I do mean instantly. It's pretty amazing. When I was first practicing this, and I had so many food sensitivities and just going bonkers in my mind. I've heard somebody talk about their food reactions that led to depression and weird impulses as being apocalyptic. And that's a very good word for it, actually, because that's what it feels like. And when we're stressed, it can feel like the end of the world and, all this stuff. And so having this tool, are my thoughts useful? How do they behave? Was just so powerful. And I just practiced it again and again and again and again, both in Sanskrit and in English. And this, over time, started to lead to the breakup of the thoughts. But it was always useful, instantly. Because how could it not be? To draw your attention to the stress that's in your mind with two simple questions. Are my thoughts useful? How do they behave? Adolfo is in the house. Good to see you, Adolfo. Thank you for being here. Always wonderful to see you. I've been thinking about you and meaning to reach out. As you know, I have. So good to see you here. Thanks for being with us. Now, how do you memorize this, right? Well, let's say you got a memory palace and you just pick this area. Are my thoughts useful? Well, it feels kind of abstract, right? And you can make it instantly concrete, easily. What does the sound of R bring to mind? You can participate in the chat if you like, or I can feed it to you. But really, we want to teach people how to fish here, rather than handing them the fish. And besides which, the fish that I come up with are potentially very unique and special to me. But if you really want the most out of this, you got to start to use memory techniques. And the way you start using memory techniques is through association. So what does the letter R, or the sound R for the word R, what does it bring to mind? Anybody? Let's fish instead of just handing out the fish. And I will chant a little Sanskrit while I wait for you there, because I don't do this in English very often. I go Chittameva Mahadosham, Chittameva Hi Balakaha, Chittameva Mahatmayam, Chittameva Mahanasat. And that is the Sanskrit. And basically what it's saying there is that mind is the great folly, right? Mind is like the undisciplined little boy that's running around untethered. And so that's a very important pirate. Very good. And then it says that, that mind is just such an illusion. It just simply doesn't exist, right? And it's just completely ridiculous to think that your mind is real. So, are my thoughts useful? How do they behave? This is very, very useful. Now, why does the Sanskrit work? Why is that helpful? Well, it works and it's helpful because it sort of really kicks you out of your thoughts, because now you're thinking of something else. And in the science, we call this cognitive shifting, right? And that's why I would recommend that you do it in the Sanskrit, not just the English, because it's going to shift you away. If you're just having English thoughts like, oh, I'm freaking out, or I feel so sick, or I'm so stressed out, or, oh, I hate this and I hate that, and oh, that idiotic so-and-so, if your mind is just doing that, you're in trouble, right? Because your English is just Englishizing itself. But if you just switch Chittameva Mahadosham, Chittameva Hi Balakaha, Chittameva Mahatmayam, Chittameva Mahanasat, and you know in your mind, without even using the English, that you are saying, are my thoughts useful? How do they behave? Then you know they're out of control. They're like that little boy that the Sanskrit talks about. And that's very, very useful and powerful. So Adolfo's relaxing by the pool. Excellent. That's a great image. And if you're in our mastermind group, Adolfo has some great videos there where he's by the pool showing us some of the Memory Palace techniques and strategies he uses. Sean says pirate. So that's what comes to mind for R. R, matey. Very good. So we got one. The 80-20 rule is in effect. Excellent. If you're watching the replay, you can also participate after the fact in the discussion area, the comments area. Let me know how you're doing, how things are going for you. Hit the thumbs up if you're joining us now. Hit the thumbs up if you're joining us then. Get subscribed if you're new here. And let me know in the chat while we're here together where you are in the world, what's going on with you, how you're doing, and how you're managing your stress right now. Because I can tell you, I'm not used to having stress, but I've been stressed out for a while. I was stressed out some weeks ago before I went to give a TEDx, and I just thought, is this right to get on a plane? This was at the beginning of February. I went, my TEDx was on the February 20th, but I went only after I went to see the GP, talked to multiple friends. Some of my friends were laughing at me. They're like, why are you worried about this? Mathematically, it's very unlikely you'll get this, that, and the other thing. I'm like, first of all, we don't know. It's asymptomatic, and maybe I would give it to 5 other people, even if I don't even know that I have it. So, math. But also, there's no mathematical equation for human stupidity, right? There just isn't. So we got to keep that in mind. Anyway, R. So Sean has pirate. Great. So now, Sean, the thing is which pirate, right? That you might want to think of. That's very, very important. And Valids, I have no idea who you're referring to, but we can certainly ban anybody who would be spamming, and I don't know any such person. So you are you are rocking up to be spammed if this is some strange comment coming out of nowhere. But you're not going to rock this boat, Nick Durr or anybody else. And if there is somebody that's bothering you, I don't see him. So it might be a myth or a fantasy. Chittameva Mahadosham. So R. I think of R2D2 myself. And R2D2 is a great image for this to kick it off, right? And that is indeed one of the images that I used for this in the English. Austin Studies is in the house. Good to see you. I like that little cat there. Thank you for that. And what we want to do really is, depending on your level of skill, we want to encode every word or just one to kick it off. Adolfo says, R. Kelly. Wonderful. Great, great, great. if you're just joining us, what we're doing is assembling some examples together of how that we could do this by association. What we're trying to memorize is, are my thoughts useful? So we need to kick this off with something that gets back the idea of R, right? So we got R. Kelly, we've got R as in a pirate, and then so R. Kelly is great because that's super specific already. And we're going to say goodbye to Valides here, Vahalids, whatever, however you say that. That should stop us being whatever's going on with that dude. But look at that. I'm going to call you King Spitus of the Factus. I don't know what that means, but kind of interesting actually. And wow, King Spitus of the Factus. Art, great. So art. My pirate is Captain Barbossa from Pirates of the Caribbean. Part of my memory palace number 53. Ah, okay, so 53. So are you not using the major for 53? For 53, I have a lamb. Nick says, love the cup. I have the same one. Yes, indeed. You know, Nick, I was so interested in the cup that when I saw it again, I had to get another one. I don't know if you saw last week's live stream where we memorized the planets, but that was a perfect timing for that one. But yeah, it's a good cup, which gives me pause to talk about this cup, which is the Brisbane audiobook studio production, or Brisbane audio production cup that I got after recording The Victorious Mind. And The Victorious Mind audiobook is right here on a keychain, USB. And yeah, so for those of you who have gotten the pre-order on Kindle, make sure you send the receipt, because I have an opportunity for you to get the audiobook early at a very, very significant discount. And there's the link for you coming up on the screen very soon. At magneticmarymethod.com/VM. That'll take you to Amazon where you can pick it up. All right, then make sure you send that receipt so I can get you over a free course called How to Stop Thinking. R2D2 says one hiccup. Indeed, indeed, indeed. So R2D2 is what I used. Are my thoughts useful? So now, for some people, you'll just be able to encode one word and the rest of the phrase will come. Other people, it's not going to be that case. Many times it's not that case for me. But in this case, that's enough, right? For that entire phrase. For so much of my TEDx that I gave, I just have like 1 or 2 images per entire sentences. And that's just a matter of practice, but not always. Sometimes there were more. Just really depends on what's going on. DA Lit is in the house. Good to see you. Said you came in when the conversation was focused on food. Going to have to catch the replay. Yeah, so food is definitely an essential thing. Food can cause you to be stressed out, and so strategies that I had would be to just say, because it would make my mind race, right? Are my thoughts useful? How do they behave? Gone. And the suggestion I was making is that because of something that we know in neuroscience called, or learning and the sort of neurological studies of learning, there's something called cognitive shifting. And so if we can train ourselves, and this is where the promise of instantly reducing stress comes in, if we can train ourselves to, when we have negative thoughts that are causing us stress, or when stress is causing us to have negative thoughts, if we can instantly shift away to something else, then we can experience great relief. And the idea being that if we go from English to English, that's not nearly as much of a shift as English to Sanskrit. But you can go basically, are my thoughts useful? How do they behave? Or you can go Chittameva Mahadosham, Chittameva Hi Balaka, Chittameva Mahatmayam, Chittameva Mahanasat, and so on. Now there's more questions. The questions are really, really good. There's essentially 30 of them in total, and then 2 sort of end phrases that really seal the deal once you've reduced all the stress. Now, I've just found the first 2 very, very powerful. But if you really want to go for gold, then, they're all in Evolving Beyond Thought. And in The Victorious Mind, I take you through how I memorized each and every single last one of them. And basically, this is it. Just coming up with associations, putting them in memory palaces. So let's say we have, are my thoughts useful here? And then we wanted to have, how do they behave? well, we can put them there. And then a moment of stress comes, and now we want to do the same thing. So when you think of the word how, what comes to mind? You do the fishing. Learn how to fish. Do it. Let me know in the chat what comes to mind when you think of how. I've got a great magnetic imagery for that. Nick says rat from Ratatouille. Yeah, that's a good one. Rat. So rat makes me think of the Ghost song. Rats. I love that song. Rats. And then I think of Splinter, to make it a more specific rat. Splinter from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Time Lord is in the house. Wow, we haven't seen you forever and a day, Time Lord. Or else you are a new Time Lord, different from the old one. You said you started to memorize cards using PAO to reduce stress because a lot of the images are hilarious. So that has been helping me. Yeah, and one of the things too is, Nick throws in rat from Ratatouille, and I instantly have a blast of bliss because I think of rats from Ghost and how that they sing it with this rolled R. Rats. And if you know the music video, he's dancing around in the most ridiculous way. And it just brings so much joy, right? This is why mnemonics make you so happy. Think of how happy old Harry Lorraine is. If you look up Harry Lorraine on YouTube, his birthday videos, he's an old man. He's just doing cards. His mind is so sharp. He's doing magic I mean, even though, he's old and stuff, his hands are just sharp as hell. His mind is just switched on, and he's entertaining people. And it's got to be partly assisted, if not entirely assisted, from a life devoted to memory. Tony Buzan, man, he was just switched on. Just so happy, so blissful. A life devoted to memory. Why? What accounts for all that joy? What else could it be other than spending your life? Someone just tells you about some mnemonic, and you're all of a sudden you got the best music in your mind. You got a music video coming up, and you see a guy dancing in your mind. It's hilarious. It's fun. It makes you feel good. Use memory techniques. Very, very simple. Time Lord says it's still the same Time Lord. I'm usually working when you do live streams. Oh, I wish that it was possible to do live streams on all the different kinds of things, but I'm glad you're here today, and hope you're doing well. Thanks for saying hello. If you're just joining us, also hit that thumbs up. Let me know where you are in the world, what you're doing. Get subscribed if you're new. And Christopher is here from Trinidad. Well, hello over there in Trinidad. Good to meet with you today. Wonderful. So one hiccup says a wolf howling or a howdy cowboy. Both very good. So would that wolf be Teen Wolf, or would it be Jack Nicholson in Wolf? What was that? Jack Nicholson with Sharon Stone, was it? That was an interesting movie. I should watch that again. The Howling, of course, that movie comes to mind. Excellent. These are nothing that I had in mind, but beautiful, beautiful. Can we get another example? Who would associate how do my thoughts behave starting with how? What would you use just to get that word how hopping and humming and rolling? What would you use? To me, there's just an obvious thing. But here's the thing about mnemonic examples. What's obvious to me is not necessarily obvious to you. So once you know the procedure, then you know. So Teen Wolf, excellent, excellent. There's so many fascinating wolves, of course. And it doesn't have to be a horror movie wolf. Maybe you've seen a wolf in your life. I've seen some wolves in my day. And I had a Mr. Death moment one time with wolves. I don't know if you've met my friend Mr. Death, who always says, catch you later, up in the hills with a friend of mine. And we were there. Actually, it was a funny story. We're up in the mountains in British Columbia, and we're looking down at the Thompson River, which is frozen over, and we're laughing at these kids. Aha, look at them. They're going to fall through the ice. And then all of a sudden we see a wolf, and it puts the fear of God into us. Whew. Anyway, we got out of it. Longer story how. But there you go. Lived to tell the tale. I don't even know exactly how, but anyway. Wolf. It was scary. But it was one of those don't you laugh as the hearse goes by, for you may be the next to die moments, because we're laughing at these kids who might have fallen through the ice, because it was around this time of year, spring, thaw, and they're like, oh, and we're laughing at them, they're going to die, etc. And then boom, all of a sudden this wolf comes to threaten us. Mr. Howell from Gilligan's Island. I don't know Gilligan's Island at all. Thurston Howell, the third Gilligan's Island. Yeah, I mean, I think I'm familiar with it, but I remember when I was a kid, if I'm thinking, No, maybe I'm thinking of something else. But I remember I think we saw where Gilligan's Island was shot when they take you to Universal Studios, which is in Anaheim, is it? Or thereabouts? And something like that. But I'm not sure if that's exactly the same show. But I don't know that. But anyway, Mr. Howell, that's another one. Howie Mandel. I think I saw somewhere, didn't I, in the chat? Yeah, from Sean. That's a good one. I was thinking of Howard Stern. So, shock jock. But, how did they behave? So, again, if you need an image for every word, go for it. But in some ways, you can often just trigger it with one word. It's up to you. It's up to your level of experience. And even no matter how experienced you are, you sometimes will want words for every single thing. So Howlin Wolf, the blues singer from Tony Rogers. Good to see you, Tony. Thanks for being here. I was actually just reading about him a little bit in this book about Tom Waits, who seems to have been influenced by Howlin Wolf and blues in general. So if you haven't read Low Side of the Road, yes, it's a big read, but it's great. I finished it recently, and one thing I really love about it is it's not that big of a read because this much of the book is just the citations, but it also has this list of tracks that are recommended in a certain top 40 order. It's really neat how that he did it. Anyway, good book, and if you like Howling Wolf, then you might like Tom Waits, and vice versa. Pepper is in the house. Good to see you, Pepper. Wow, wonderful to have you here today. All right, so is that clear to everybody? Now's the opportunity to ask any questions around it if you like, and you just keep on proceeding in this way. If you want to add another thing, then you can. So you can do this in either language. You could do it in this 2 languages at the same time, and so forth. And then, you add some more. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. So I would encourage everybody to get Happiness Beyond Thought, this book here, because it doesn't have the text that we were just talking about, which is in Evolving Beyond Thought, but it has some other texts to memorize, and I'm done all of them, and they're very, very useful. So it's a lot of Sanskrit to have in your head, but it's so good. It's so good, but it is challenging. So I'm going to talk about some simpler things that you can do as well, but I just want to talk about the most recent one that I finished, which is called the Nirvana Shadow Cam, or you'll sometimes see it called the Atma Shadow Cam. But let's check in here with the chat. Tony says he was just listening to Tom Waits, my favorite. Yeah, he's amazing. That dude is unbelievable. What's your favorite album, Tony? I have my favorite, which you could probably guess, but he's really cool. Pepper says, used to smoke pot back in the 70s, but quit in 84. I am deathly of anything like that affecting my memory. Deathly afraid, I guess, of anything like that affecting my memory as I have grad school quals coming up. What's the verdict on pot versus memory? I actually have a video on that topic, Pepper. So you could search up marijuana using my site to see more what I say in that video. I don't think my opinion has changed, but the first thing that I would say is this. Put aside the worry. It's not really helpful, and you can't change it anyway. Whatever is past is past. So, I mean, I think you're missing a word in your post. I'm deathly something of anything. I guess a deathly afraid. Well, we're talking about reducing stress today, right? And so one of the things that we can do is just use the tools that we talked about today. So if you missed it and you want to watch the replay to catch up to speed, here's a brief way of not having to watch the replay. We just have to just say, are my thoughts around this useful? How do they behave? And so if they're fear thoughts, then we can just say, well, those are fear thoughts. And then when they come up, we just acknowledge them. Oh, there's that fear thought again. And this can instantly reduce the stress around it. And then if you keep practicing it, and you can continue to ask different questions. There's many, many questions like, what is the value of these thoughts? How are these thoughts connecting me to my past? And, to whom? This is a weird question. It took me a while to kind of wrap my brain around why you would even ask this, but now it makes total sense. But to whom exactly is this fear, this worry happening, right? And if you can find that person, well, good luck, because I don't think you can. But it helps dissolve the thoughts, because you can't really find that person. Like, where is the voice that's causing the fear, right? Where is the person? I can't find them. It's just, there's nobody there. Lights on, nobody home. And it's just very, very simple. So one of the things that you learn in the Sanskrit is these two words, neti neti, which just sort of means not this, or not that, not that. And so one of the things you can do also is just say neti neti. So that's the first thing I would just suggest, right? Is that whenever your thoughts come up around this, interrogate them, inquire. Are they useful? How are they behaving? What is the value of these thoughts? This can help dissolve them. And then, to whom are these thoughts occurring? And try to find that person, right? Where's the monkey mind producing it? Where is it? Literally, where is it? If you follow Sam Harris in Waking Up, he refers to a book called On Having No Head by Douglas Harding. And it's kind of like mind-melting. It was for me in the beginning. What the heck is this guy talking about on having no head? But if you actually try to see your own face, can you? Right? Literally, where is your head? Well, where is the you that thinks it has a head in the first place? Where is the you that thinks it has a history with smoking pot? Right? And how do you remind yourself to dissolve the very idea that there is one? Simple memory palace. Are my thoughts useful? How do they behave? Or in the Sanskrit, right? Hashtag monkey mind, says Sean Patrick. Exactly. Noting your thoughts, labeling your thoughts. I think you can go further. You can neutralize your thoughts. And one of the things in one of the texts, I don't have the book here to show you, but it's called The Fire of Self-Knowledge, which is a translation of a text called Atmabodha. It says, that this is the fifth verse. Yes, the fifth verse. It says, constant practice of self-knowledge neutralizes ignorance as a base neutralizes an acid, purifying the individual self. And what it's saying there, so when it says neutralizes ignorance, what ignorance means is essentially you not being in the moment. You not realizing that now is the only time. Now and only now, right? Because when you're thinking about, oh, my fear and, oh, the stuff that I did in the past, that's not the now. That's ignorance. That's ignorance, because now is now, now, right? Be awake. Wake up. Enjoy right now. And not worrying about the exams in the future. I did a PhD myself. I had to qualify. I had 2 field exams and a dissertation defense. I knew back then to meditate and not get hung up in the exam to come and all the worries and thoughts and etc. I'll never forget the second exam, flying from Manhattan to Toronto. And this plane went down, and then just as it was hitting the runway, it went boom up. And the next thing you know, we're over Lake Ontario, and it looks like we're beelining straight for the CN Tower. 9/11 is still fresh on everyone's mind, right? And we're just like, what the hell is going on? This is a small plane, and it had one stewardess, and she sat on the cockpit door facing everybody. And everybody's just like, what the hell is going on? I'll never forget her saying, if the pilot wants to tell me something, the pilot will tell me something. We're just all like, what the hell is that? And the plane, right? You think everybody's screaming, crying, freaking out. It was deadly silent, and everybody's freaking out. But somebody's, like, talk to what's going on with the pilot, breaking the silence. And she just says, if the pilot wants to tell me something, he'll tell me something. Anyway, we finally, after circling around in this crazy madness, we finally land, and the pilot says, yeah, well, there was another plane on the runway, and sorry about that, folks, but everything's okay now. We just missed him. Anyway, I go the next day, and I'm completely rattled to sit in my field exam, and there's whatever. Anyway, long story short, I passed, but it was because of the strength of constant meditation and being able to put thoughts out of the mind and just focus and answer to the best of my ability and not get hung up on it. But I was still pretty rattled, to be honest, and it was freaking me out. Buddha was born in Nepal, and he's there, or he's here. Everyone says, hello, everyone. Good morning. Good morning to you, Buddha. Nice to see the Buddha, always. Anyway, so there's that. Now, in terms of pot itself and residual effects, I don't necessarily know all of these things. But one thing for sure that I would say is there is a future coming, and anything that you can do to purify, whether it's through optimizing your diet, adding meditation, regular daily memory practice, at least 4 times a week, but ideally every day, you're going to really accelerate that sort of healing. You're going to reduce these fears and worries, and then you're going to be fine, especially if you memorize the information that you need for your qualifications. So, and I would just suggest if you really have concerns, see a doctor who actually knows about these things. But I also wouldn't punish oneself for these things. And when I did all my graduate stuff, I was drinking beer like crazy, and I even was super self-medicating and hungover when I went to a memory competition one time, and the memory techniques worked fine. They would have worked a lot better without those ridiculous considerations, but nonetheless, it worked out fine. So I hope that helps you out. I hope that gives you some insight, and I congratulate you for being concerned. And one just needs to keep moving forward. Now you say, Dr. M, my friends are all bragging about how indica removes all their stress and want me to get into it. Oh, so that came before this. Yeah, I mean, the old thing about all your friends jumping off a bridge, right? So it's just that kind of thing. And if they're really friends, their bragging will always come with the acceptance that people don't have to do what they do. And then if they don't, then they're not friends. Interesting that you mention it. My PhD dissertation was on friendship. And in a nutshell, the thesis of my dissertation was that friends assume what's called hypothetical consent. And that is a horrible thing. This is a crime. And I give many, many examples of how this plays out. And it's a tautological structure. So a friend assumes that they have your consent to talk about this, that, and the other thing because you're their friend. And because they're your friend, they talk about this, that, and the other thing. So it is a tautology. So I recognize its logical limits, but nonetheless, it seems to be very real in how friendships play out. And so if you look at the movies and the history of philosophy and so forth, we see various tools in philosophy to avoid that circle. And some of them involve, like in Aristotle, for example, realizing that you have friends that are just for pleasure, you have friends that are essentially friends of utility, and then you have friends of virtue. And friends of virtue are obviously the ones that we want the most of, but we also don't want our lives to go empty of friends of utility and friends of pleasure. And Aristotle thinks these things will shift around as you age, but I think that there's a time for all these things at all times. So keep that in mind, but keep in mind that the problem of hypothetical consent can happen at all time, at any time with any of the categories of friends. And one of the things that we want to always be aware of is that the virtuous friend is not always who we think of as a friend. So, for example, some people are better friends to us than we acknowledge, such as the hard-nosed teacher of memory, for example, who you might not know personally, but has the courage to put his foot down and say, look, buck up or shut up and use these techniques, or there's the door, don't let it bang you on the backside on your way out, right? That is virtuous level friendship in the Aristotelian construction, but you wouldn't necessarily always see that person as a friend. Anyway, hope that helps you out there with that issue. So Sean Patrick is pointing out, Mourning Gratitude. Think of the 3 things you are grateful for and relive each one for 1 minute. Touch, sound, sight, smell, and taste always puts me in a great mood to start my day. Beautiful. Yeah, I usually list 10 of them, and certainly reliving things is where we started today, and that's a very beautiful strategy inside of a memory palace. All right, so if you're joining us, hit thumbs up. Let me know where you are in the world, what you're doing, what you're thinking, and let's talk about memorizing the Atma Shadow Cam, sometimes called the Nirvana Shadow Cam, and some of the issues around that. We've already seen a memory palace, and we can see it again in a second here. But how do you even get started when you want to do some sort of more intermediate advanced memorization? So we've already had some examples of just simple questions. Are my thoughts useful? How do they behave? And thank you to everybody who participated with your great mnemonic suggestions. That's wonderful to see. Now, when you got to do it for 2 languages at the same time, and you got to do it for words that just don't exactly always have one-to-one correspondences in quite the same way, what do, right? So the Nirvana Shadow Cam, which itself has to be memorized, especially given the fact that it has 2 titles, the Atma Shadow Cam and the Nirvana Shadow Cam, you want to start there, obviously. Now, the interesting thing about Nirvana, as I understand it, nir is like a negation word, so it's not. And the vana part is, I believe it has something to do with the flame of a candle. So nirvana literally means, as far as I understand it, lights out. The flame is extinguished, right? That's one translation that I've heard, which is very nice. So that's interesting to dwell upon. So Sean is very gracious in giving us the suggestions of thinking about things you're grateful for. But you can also meditate upon nothing. Nirvana. The candle is out. Whew. Right? Now, why would you want to do that? Why would you want to meditate on nothing? Well, how about this reason? You don't exist, right? In the sense of this I. Oh, poor me. Oh, I'm freaking out. Oh, I'm having a food reaction. Oh, I'm stressed out. Oh. The world is coming to an end. Really? Which world? I mean, the future may look grim. There may be serious issues. But what about now? So we want to negate all of the thoughts about the future. We want to negate all the thoughts about the past. Blow them out like a candle. Whew. And we even want to negate all our thoughts about the now. Because how useful are they, right? So the Nirvana Shadow Cam is very cool because it negates the whole notion of this body that's appearing in space, right? And the mind that's in it. And I really like it because it also negates the whole notion of memory itself. So it starts, Mano Bujahankara Chitani Naham Nacha. Oh, I've lost it. I haven't sang it yet. Mano Bujahankara Chitani Naham Nacha Shrotra Jivi Nacha Krana Nitri Nacha Vyoma Bhumir Natejo Navayu Chitananda Rupaha Shivoham. There. Now, another good thing is you know how to relax yourself when you make a mistake and you're not embarrassed when you're on a live stream. Oh, what the hell happened to that? And then you find it again. So let's see how we did. So it's Mano Bujahankara Chitaninaham Nacha Shrotra Jivi Nacha Krana Nitri Nacha Vyoma Bhumir Nateja Navayu Chitananda Rupaha Shivoham. Yeah, there we go. Now, the thing is you'll see this if you look it up. Atma Shadow Cam, Nirvana Shadow Cam, you'll hear it pronounced in many different ways. And notice that there are actually different versions out there, and there's many different ways that they sing it. So I'm not totally confident that how I'm pronouncing it is correct or that there even is a correct one. Because, for example, that nacha, some people will pronounce it nacho. So, for example, I said nacha vyoma bhumir. But sometimes it's like nacho vyoma, and they'll make it o to go with the vyo, and then sometimes this bhumi will be bhumir, and bhumir with the primacy effect is how I sort of remembered it the first time. And anyway, you'll find all kinds of strange adventures like this happen in your journey. So keep that in mind, and then notice too that when you're saying things, sometimes you'll slip up, and then how do you get yourself back? Now, if you allow yourself to get stressed out about that stuff, then you could be lost. They say that Winston Churchill gave a speech one time, and he totally forgot the speech, and so he never memorized speeches again. I don't know if that's a true story or not, But he was so stressed out about it that he never gave another speech from memory again, which is a bit of a shame because he could have maybe memorized this and then learned how to instantly reduce his stress. Because the instant this, I got a line wrong, and I'm going to be embarrassed and panic and all this sort of stuff, you just negate it. You just reduce it. Gone. And that was useful even when I gave my TEDx. I didn't forget any of the lines when I did that, but some unexpected things happened, and I had to shut off my thoughts and not get stressed out about the unexpected. So learn how to reduce stress, and the best way is to memorize certain things that we've been talking about today. So Sean says, there is a meditation from Alan Watts about transforming past what is human. It's fantastic. Equanimity. All right, let's look that up. Everybody who's interested in that. Alan Watts is great. I love that guy. I was able to actually work a little bit with his son, Mark, for a while on a project. So that's cool. I emailed him recently to see if I could get an update about that and tell him about my forthcoming book, but I haven't heard back from him. It's probably too far in the distant past, and maybe that email is not his anymore. But I could maybe look up the website. All right, if you're joining us, hit the thumbs up. Let me know where you are in the world, what you're doing, what you're thinking. And what's your mood like? Who would like to go deeper into this and see it play out in a memory palace? Because I think this is one of the most powerful tools. But I want to be on point. If you guys got other things you want to talk about, if you want to ask any questions or comments, let me know in the chat. I'm going to get another drink here. And while we're waiting to see who would like to play around with this and get into some examples, I would like to update or talk to you briefly. He doesn't know I'm going to do this, but I've invited him on the podcast, on the Magnetic Memory Method podcast, and just recommend for everybody Ryan Michler's Sovereignty, which is a really good book. And he's from Order of Man podcast. And so I don't think that you have to be a man to enjoy it, but it is directed at men. And this is a very, very good book. So I'm excited to talk to him on the Magnetic Memory Method podcast. And you can hear me on his podcast, but it's just a generally good podcast. And he has a great Facebook group that I would recommend. And for those of you who are following along and have seen the Art of Memory video, you might want to also read Art of Memory and Giordano Bruno and Renaissance Science as part of your homework. We are producing part 2, which is a detailed study on Rhetorica ad Herennium, which Yeats, in chapter 1 of The Art of Memory, doesn't dive into, strangely, at all. So I went really deep into it, and I hope you really enjoy that video. Who here has seen part 1 of the Art of Memory series that I released? I would love to know. And if not, please check it out so that you can follow along. I know a bunch of people said that they have ordered the book so they can follow along, and it's going to work best for those of you who are reading it and following it along. All right, let's see here. J.A. is in the house. Alex, I haven't seen you for a long time. I was thinking about you the other day. Great to have you here. Thanks for joining us. Anthony says, any ideas on dealing with procrastination? Because I am right now. All right. So, yeah, procrastination, that's a big one. Some people say, if you're going to procrastinate, just enjoy it. That's what Eckhart Tolle says, don't punish yourself. But tell me more, Anthony, what is the procrastination? Rather than generalize, what's happening? Lay out some stuff. Let's deal with specifics rather than just generalize. Very, very important. So Sean says, I'm in. I got a painting of Howie Mandel in my living room. Art Howie. Excellent. Beautiful. And Pebber asks, when studying Aristotle's works, have you come across the word figura? Yes, indeed, indeed. So what are your thoughts around that? It's a very interesting concept. Oliver is in the house from Florida, very interested in this. I've been using Sam Harris's Waking Up app to improve my meditation. I often use Memory Palace Recall to calm down as well. Excellent, Oliver. Thanks for letting us know that. Thanks for being here. And so let's see here. Anthony would like to go deeper into this. So you're asking, what is it? This is the Nirvana Shadow Cam, sometimes called Atma Shatakam. And it's the second text that Gary talks about Gary Weber, that is, in Happiness Beyond Thought. Incidentally, you can find a PDF of this for free on the internet, and he seems very happy for that to be the case. But for serious students, I would recommend that you actually get the book, because, if you're going to work with something, memorize from paper. And basically my process is to memorize from the paper. Sometimes I will take it to the park, often just here, and just work at it. So, there's no perfect place to start. Like, I started with the Ribhu Gita extracts, but then I went to what's called the Upadesa Sharam, which is 30 verses. So 32 verses from Ribhu Gita, 30 from Upadesa Sharam. I don't know how you would count this, but it's 6 sections. And so, like I say to people, I have somehow somewhere between 75 and 100 of these things memorized, because I also have a fair amount of passages from the Bhagavad Gita memorized. So it's getting to be a lot. I have no intention of going after a Guinness record or any of that stuff, but if I did, it would be in Sanskrit. Basically, to get started, that's what I would do. Literally have the book, not from the screen. I mean, I've done some training trials to memorize from screens. I don't enjoy it. If people do, that's fine. I know some of the memory competitors, they use their software and memorize from software. I find it completely unenjoyable. But what we want to do is we want to have a memory palace, right? We want to have it all sorted out. And so we've got material to deal with here, right? So we've got Mano Bujahankara Chitani Naham. Mano. What are we going to do there? What are we going to do there? Maybe some of you can guess what I would do for man. What would be the most obvious thing to you for man? The sound man. Let me know in the chat. Fish with me rather than me handing it out. What would you do for man? What is, depending on your age, the most obvious thing for man? Those of you who, I don't even want to give this clue. I don't want to give this clue. We'll talk about it after. It's so good, though. It's so good when you know how to do this, when you're prepared to do it. All right. Okay, so Austin has Barry Manilow. I don't know if that's correct spelling. I don't know. No, I think it's M-A-N, but very good. Barry Manilow. That is a very obvious one. Excellent. So that's good. I have Johnny Cash, of course, the Man in Black. But here's the beauty of the setup. For those of you who get your 00 to 99 sorted, and you have good images for everything from 00 to 99, you instantly have an image for everything, really, that I've ever seen. And you don't have to work at it. You don't have to do anything. It's just boom, right? So Manny Ramirez, He-Man or Ip Man comes to mind. Excellent Adolfo, excellent Oliver. See, it's so easy. It's so easy. Austin says, I find it to be really cool that you memorize spiritual texts like monks from the past. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm into that. Shaft, yeah. Very good, very good. Sean Patrick, the government, the man. Yeah. So just to, there's nothing wrong with that, Sean, but the thing there is, who's the specific thing? So is it Hoover? Is it, I don't know what, but that's, if conceptual abstractions work for you, go for it, right? But I like to think of, like, who would it be? So Hoover is a different number for me, but I would consider that for if I was going that way. Anyway, so now we've got, I don't know who Manny Ramirez is, Adolfo, but we've got He-Man, right? So I've used He-Man to memorize Sanskrit. The thing is then how do we know that it's Mano instead of Mana or Mani or Manu, right? How do we know? What is he going to do? Neil Armstrong, Man on the Moon. Excellent. Would you believe? Right. Good from Time Lord. Excellent. There's lots of options, right? This is so easy. It's so easy. Now just imagine, though, that it's also your 32 in a 00 to 99. Makes it even better, right? Because then you could think of, if you didn't have anything else, you could think of, well, what is in my 00 to 99? Well, I will leave it at that. See if you can fill in the blanks. So much fun. So much fun. All right. So, Mano Bujahankara Chitaninaham. And that can all be in just one station there. Or it could be across a line. 32 is Time Lord's Moon. Adolfo says, Manny Ramirez, Boston Red Sox baseball player. Excellent. Great. So now he could be throwing something like an O, right? Mano. So we've got that. And so we have to go, Mano Bu Jahankara. So we have Buddha here today. I saw in the chat. That's obvious, right? Jahankara. Oh, well, Han Solo, my friend Yan, right? Cars are cars. But which car, right? Maybe there's a friend named Kara, etc. And this is just how you weave. And you weave, 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 right? So it's very fun. David is in the house. Sorry you missed this. I'm sorry also. Kind of a spontaneous thing. We're a little bit late with this week's video, and that's because we're making a movie. We've made a movie out of part 2 of Art of Memory documentary. The Rhetorica ad Herenium deserves it. To really patch in what is missing from what Yeats did. And I hope you all enjoy it. Austin Study says 8 is Ouroboros in the shape of an 8. Oh, nice. Nice. Do you know what my 8 is? Can anybody guess? Well, sorry, but my 8 is not my 8. My 8 is always 08, right? So 8 is snowman, obviously, but what my 08 is different. Who here has multiple systems for numbers? I'd love to know that. And if you don't have them, who would love to have multiple systems for numbers? Let me know in the chat. And let me know what you're doing, where you're at in the world. If you're just joining us, hit that thumbs up if you haven't already. Get subscribed if you're new here. If you're watching the replay, say hello in the discussion. That helps Robotlandia know that humans like this content. It's so interesting and strange how the world works these days. And we will reflect on that strangeness indeed. Time Lord says, I have a peg list and major for my list. Excellent, excellent. So multiple systems there. One of the things that you want to consider in your practice is developing multiple systems so you can have crossover. Adolfo says, I'd like to add more number systems to my bag. Yeah. So I don't know where you're at with all of them, but if you have number shape and you have 00 to 99, and then you just have, the major for on the fly kind of stuff as such, I'm sort of thinking of developing a shadow. Not sure though. I mean, and the thing is, I don't know that I would ever use it, but just for the mental exercise, it could be fun. Yeah. So anyway, that's basically how that works. And when we want to throw in the English, then here's where you can just reuse memory palaces. So, the English just goes through a set of negations. And basically what it's saying in the first line really is, I am not the mind that thinks or imagines, the intellect that categorizes and decides, the ego or the I sense which springs into being as the doer, nor the memory. Now you'll see different translations of this. So for example, the Wikipedia translation doesn't have that exact thing there, but this is the one that's in Happiness Beyond Thought. And it's very useful and powerful to, when you're stressed out, have a tool that reminds you, I am not the mind. I am not this mind that is going blah, 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 blah. The mind that is going blah, 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 blah appears in me. And according to the way the philosophy of Advaita Vedanta works, and I think if you really play this through, you will see that it's true. You can't be that mind because you cannot be anything that appears in you. You are the thing that is aware of the appearance of things in you. So you're not that mind, right? And you're not the one who is sitting there judging things, categorizing things, needing things, wanting things, right? It's springing into being. It appears as this doer, which means the person who is thinking, the person who is buying, the person who is worrying, the person who is humming and hawing and doing all this blah, blah, blah stuff and filled with likes and dislikes and all that stuff. But it's not you, because it can't be. It is the thing that appears in you. And so I just imagine having some simple tools to shut that thing down. We've already talked about using happy memories to do it. We've talked about 2 simple questions, which somehow is appearing as 4 right now, but 2. And those are very simple. Are my thoughts useful? How do they behave? And then, sort of, so to speak, next level would be to sing this song, which reminds you that you are not the mind that thinks or imagines, right? Mano bujahankara chitani naham nacha shrotra jivi nacha krana nitri nacha vyoma bhumir na tejo na vayu chitananda rupaha shivoham shivoham. And it just feels so good. Now, why does it feel so good? You might go, man, you can't sing. I'm out of here. Whatever. But the thing is we know that singing creates healthy chemicals in the brain that heal the body. So, of course, you're going to feel great because singing makes you feel great. So, this is a Nike moment. Just do it. Right? Just do it. Just do it. It's beautiful. It's one of the reasons why I love to learn how to sing in different languages, right? So even if I sing a tragedy, Ich werde in die Tannen gehen, dahin, wo ich sie zuletzt gesehen, doch der Abend wirft ein Tuch aufs Land. I better not sing too much or else the robots will hear me. But, because they do their strikes if we don't have the rights. But I sing so badly that maybe they won't recognize what I was singing there. But anybody know that, by the way? I love it, though, because even if you're singing a tragic song, it still creates those chemicals, which is why we sometimes feel a certain pleasure in sadness, right? Anyway, I highly recommend learning and singing and just combating bad thoughts with singing, because you just tackle them from so many angles, right? And it could be not singing, of course, but verbalizing is very, very useful. All right, so when we're going to memorize the English, though, right, now we got to reuse the memory palace. And so I am not the mind that thinks or imagines, right? What are we going to do? Well, here's the question for you, because this is the way I do it. When I memorize the English, I don't memorize the English. I just memorize the gist of it. And here's one reason why. One reason why is that there's so many translations out there. And you're going to come across so many translations. And they're all going to be different because different people have different ideas about how this or that word is translated. And there are 3 things to consider, at least 3. There may be 30, but there's at least 3 things to consider when you're translating anything. It's called logopoia, melopoia, and phanopoia. So logopoia is the logic. What is the logical sense here? Phanopoia is the imagery, if there is any, and usually there is. And then melopoia is the sound. And so often in translation, people deny that the sound has some meaning and they don't compensate for it in the translation. I think this is a mistake, and it causes us to not get the richness of so much that is translated. But it's also probably the hardest thing to compensate for. If you know Ezra Pound's translation of the Nicoya, which is I believe it's the 10th book of the Odyssey by Homer, he sacrifices a lot of logopoia and phanopoia, logic and imagery, in order to get that sound that is missing from so many of the translations. So it's just like, and then went down to the ship, set keel to breakers, set forth on the godless sea, right? And this translation is so beautiful because it sounds like these guys rowing through the ocean. But when you read any other, who's Lattimore or somebody who translates the Odyssey, they don't have that feeling. And he does. And it's so good, right? But some people will say, well, but that's not what the original says. And Pound says, sound matters, right? We want to feel it. And that's beautiful, what he did there. But you also have to acknowledge some of the logic and some of the imagery goes out the window. So it's not that it's a bad thing or a good thing, but keep that in mind. So when I memorize the English, I just memorize the gist because there's so many different versions. As long as I understand the logic, and as long as I understand the imagery, and as long as I understand the sound and its contribution to things, then we're good to go. And we can just teach out of a general knowledge of the gist of what the English meant. And I think that's useful. Let's take a different example of this, like with Nietzsche, for example. In Also Sprach Zarathustra, the chapter on friendship, he talks about how that you can never adorn yourself enough. You can never prepare yourself enough. You can never be fit enough to serve your friend, but you must long to be the arrow that basically tries to hit the target of doing that nonetheless, right? And so it's very, very important to try to be that arrow, to be the longing to fly like the arrow towards the target of preparing yourself enough to be the best possible friend, right? Now, I don't think that if you're not paying attention to the sound of the German, I don't think you'll pick up that he's referring to Zeno's paradox with the arrow, right? But I could be wrong. Anyway, that's just the way that it seems to me. And so that's why sound matters in translation. All right. So let's catch up with the chat. If you're just joining us, hit the thumbs up. Let me know where you are in the world, what you're doing, what you're thinking. And we got a lot here. Tony says, I use shapes for 1 to 9 and sometimes the rhymes in major system. Excellent, excellent. So yeah, I would recommend next step be like a 00 to 99. Grant says, usually too busy to watch these live. I have a master system, PAO system, and PAO card system. Wow, excellent, excellent. That's beautiful. And to carry on with your threads here, you're saying you made a separate palace for each to make them and added to them daily. So now I have a few large palaces. Wonderful. You just use the first image that comes to mind. You know the numbers. I combine the systems sometimes by accident, but the recall doesn't fail. And it was fun dropping in. Be watching tomorrow. Thanks for the videos. Well, thanks, Grant, for being here. I really appreciate it. And your insights on how you're doing it is very good. I'd love to hear more about that. CH, thanks for being here, CH. You said you have a major and Dominic system mixed using PAO. For example, Conan O'Brien as your third. I've never thought about him before. I don't know why I never thought of him before. But isn't that big goofy oaf in the Archie comics named Moose? And Reggie and Archie and Betty and Veronica and all that stuff? Moose. Yeah, I think that's what his name was. Moose. Okay, so you're saying it works sometimes, but I regret it a bit. Can get confusing switching between the two. Well, CH, that's practice, right? So dive in and practice. One Hiccup says, no lies, I paid a person 370 pounds to tell me and show me, among other things, that I am not the mind that thinks or imagines. No regrets, though. Yeah, One Hiccup, if it works, why put a price on paradise, right? Who cares how much things cost? They're just numbers. You can't take them with you. And anything that reduces suffering in the goal, I really don't understand why people get so hung up on what things cost. You're worth it. You are the asset. You are the champion horse. Invest in yourself. Invest in yourself. Invest in yourself. Every single penny is worth it. Why would you not be worth 370 pounds, even if it didn't work? Right? Chances, here's the thing, in the lottery of life, you don't know when it might work. And you never get to know if you don't do it and take it into context. And there's all kinds of things that switch on in value later. And if you are open to it and aware to it, then even if it doesn't ever switch on later, what does it really matter? What does it matter? You've got to Be open to the fact that you just don't know, and you are worth it. Bullwinkle as 30 for moose. Beautiful, beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful. All right. So, yeah, that's basically how you do it. You just get the text that you want to memorize and you stick it there on a memory palace and you just work it in, massage it in. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. David, I hope this gives you some of the images of others that we were thinking about there, we were talking about. And maybe it's not ideal, but we'll try and come up with a timed version if I can get enough interest going there for that. Who would like this if this was actually scheduled so you could time it in? And just how much would you like it? Let me know in the chat. Now, for a simpler option, there's something called Kirtan Kriya. So if you're not ready yet to memorize this much Sanskrit, you can just start very simply by memorizing 4 syllables. 4 syllables. And I'm not sure it matters what the syllables are, but Kirtan Kriya is specifically Satanama. And you do mudras with it, and you go Satanama, Satanama, Satanama. And even when I do things, like Karturagniya Prapyute Phalam Karma Kimparam Karma Tajadam, due to the structure, it just sort of links together nicely. And this adds another focal point for reducing stress. And if you get stressed out, you can just instantly go Satanama in your mind, silently. And just ground yourself as an alternative to stressful thoughts. And then it goes. With practice, of course, it's not going to necessarily happen overnight, but the skill of instantly getting rid of stress or contextualizing it so that it can go down just needs you to get it into procedural memory. So how do you get it into procedural memory? Well, look, even Satanama, which is not a big deal to memorize, I put it in a memory palace. I put the word Kirtan Kriya in a memory palace, right? So, I used my friend Edan Curtis and Kurt Curtis. You could use Kurt Cobain or whatever. I use his name because Edan has that and sound at the end. And so we're not even linear, right? So it's like, and I put them on the curtains also, right? So Edan Curtis on the curtains, Edan and, it doesn't always make sense why these things work to others, but it does. And then Kriya, I think I had a Cree person there. Sometimes I don't always remember my mnemonics, which is, not a problem because you just remember what it was you wanted to memorize, right? You're not in this to eternally remember all the psychological laundry that you hung up on the memory palace walls. You're there to memorize the core information without the memory palace. That's why we use memory palaces, right? That's what recall rehearsal is all about. Incidentally, I interviewed Boris Conrad the other day, and he's a great neuroscientist who has memory records and Guinness World Records, and it was beautiful to have a scientist confirm how and why all this works. Bardan is in the house. Good to see you, Bardan. Thanks for saying hello. If you're joining us, hit the thumbs up. Let me know where you are in the world, what you're doing, what you're thinking. And listen, I got a little bit of time left. If anybody wants to go through a little bit more of this, we can. If you have some questions or comments, we can go through those things. We can sing the entirety of the Nirvana Shadow Cam if you like, or we can talk a little bit more about Kirtan Kriya. This is your free option. And while we're doing that, I will just let you know that I'm very, very grateful for everybody who has been going to get the pre-sale of the Kindle for The Victorious Mind. It's very wonderful and good. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. If you would like to do that over on Facebook, I'll make sure that link shows up there as well. And there's an opportunity for those who send in the receipt, and thank you for everybody who's doing that, to get the audiobook in advance. And that opportunity will show up in a free course called How to Stop Thinking. So if you'd like some more written version details of all this, some guidance about stopping thoughts that teaches you what the kinds of thoughts are that can get in the way, how to separate them out so that you still have the value of thinking, because, how to stop thinking doesn't mean stop it forever. means to contextualize it and stop negative thoughts. Then as you're waiting for this book to be released, I created a little mini course to tide you over. And in that mini course is an opportunity to get the audiobook in advance. So grab that at Amazon. This link will take you to Amazon store in your country. Send over the receipt, and as soon as possible, I will get that over to you. Adolfo says, got it on Kindle, but looking forward to the hard copy. Well, thank you for that. And yeah, the hard copy should be available hopefully April 30th for order. And I'll spare you the story, but let me tell you, putting together physical books of this kind, I've never gone this elaborate and deep into the process, and it's looking good. It's looking good. I think you're gonna love it, but it's challenging, and I needed a victorious mind to pull it all off. And the audiobook too. The audiobook production. I mean, days and days of going to the studio, and there it is on a stick. Simone was very kind to send over a keychain version of it and put the cover there, so it looks quite nice. And I have to thank Ryan Holiday, because he helped me with this cover. I don't know if you guys know Ryan Holiday, but his help was essential to the cover that you see before your very eyes. And that, sort of reminds me, if you haven't been reading his stuff, please do. Obstacle is the Way is obviously a very good one. Stillness is the Key, very, very good one. And I'm just very grateful that I've had help with this book, including from him. All right. So I guess if there's no comments or questions, CH would like more mnemonic examples. That's one. Any more? Oliver Choi loved the Daily Stoic. Excellent, excellent. Yeah, it's good. And I was really I don't know if you've seen it, but I've been just honored that they are linking over to me in part of it in their reading series, which is just a huge honor. Anyway, what can I say? I got a question for you guys. What would you like to accomplish in 2020? What would you love to accomplish in 2020? If there was one big thing, and if it's related to memory, all the better, but if it's just general, what is one thing you would love to accomplish this year? Please let me know in the chat, and I would really, really love to know, and especially if it's something that we could help you with from the Magnetic Memory Method headquarters. And only one would like one mnemonic. Only CH would like mnemonic examples. So David says you would like to accomplish serenity. Well, this is what Victorious Mind is all about, helping spread the serenity, if I understand the definition of that word as it's helping me, to others. Because lasting mental peace, I didn't think it was possible, honestly, but it is. So if anybody wants this book immediately and to get the audiobook for an incredibly low discount, go and get the pre-order. Send me over your receipt, and then I'll give you the course, How to Stop Thinking, and then you can get this extraordinary audiobook discount. They priced it quite high, the audiobook, so this is a chance to get it for $5, and that's a limited time also. So grab it if you're interested, and it can help with serenity, and you should get it, pretty much. Well, I live in Australia, so whatever. I'll get it to you as soon as possible, and you'll love this course, How to Stop Thinking. And David would like to master memory techniques to the best of my ability. Excellent. Well, you're on the path. You're on the path for sure. All right. So, in terms of more examples, let's just dive in a little bit. So, Nacha, right? It's kind of like, how are we going to deal with this? Well, there's many systems that we can go to, and the more that you have, the more ideas that you're going to have. So, the odd thing about the techniques is that you don't always even remember what the heck it is that you're associating to. So I never saw the movie. I don't know what it's called, but Jack Black is in some kind of movie. I think it's Jack Black with a nacho kind of sound in the title, right? So, Nacha Shrotra GP, that's where we start, right? And then Shrotra, what do we do with this, right? So, this is where you could think of something like Giordano Bruno and the shroud that he wears, right? Tra is, of course, I think in Sanskrit it's the instrument is what it means, tra, and it's the back end of mantra, right? So man means mind, and tra means instrument, so mind instrument. So in his shroud, he's using his mind, right? And because the shroud covers the ears, that's what this is, right? Shrotra, ear. So that's an example for you of how to do this, how to think it, and to get it at the same time. And just weave with it, weave with it. How to weave? Well, why not with space in mind, right? Because we know Thales told us this thousands of years ago. Megaston topos hapantagar kori. Space is ultimate because it contains all things. And because you are not the mind that thinks, right? Or imagines, the intellect that categorizes and decides, the ego or I sense which springs into being as the doer nor the memory. Ear doesn't show up here in this thing, but it's packed into senses, right? Then space must be ultimate because everything that appears in you. You are the space in which the whole world appears, and you are not that world that is appearing in you. So Samuel says, goals for 2020, learn mathematics and physics. Memory Palace really works. Greetings from Chile. Well, thanks for being here, Samuel. David says goal is to engage with other MMM members. Excellent. Yeah, we've got to figure out how to make this a little bit better. And I'm open for ideas about how that should work. So let's continue the conversation. All right. So that was one mnemonic example for the one person who said that they would like that. And yeah, I would encourage you to look into Kirtan Kriya and to look into the Victorious Mind. Make sure you get Happiness Beyond Thought. It's really, really beautiful. And I hope that those of you who are into the Art of Memory series will be reading that book in order to get the most out of it. Chapter 2 is in production now, and hoping to get it out in a couple days, if not sooner. But we want to make sure that it's right, that's good, do our best. Sometimes little mistakes show up, but working always to improve. And always appreciate everybody's support of the Magnetic Memory Method initiative. And Adolfo says, I am taking a college-level Algebra 1 book and breaking it down chapter by chapter, utilizing memory palaces and mnemonics for the recall of formulas and when to use them. Oh, very good. Level 1 algebra. You know, I'm so unfamiliar with what's involved in algebra, but one of the things that I'm really excited about doing is working with Magnetic Memory Method students to create new courses. So Michael Swain and I are working on one for Japanese. So I've done a little bit with Japanese, but he's done Japanese right. And so that's really exciting to be working with him on a course. And I know that this is a time where people are losing their livelihoods and whatnot. So if you're a serious mnemonist and you want to jam on the idea of putting courses together, and you're in the Magnetic Memory Method world, and you can show me that you can do these things, then reach out, because we could potentially do something together and help others. And one of the most biggest things that I have, and I'm stubborn about it, is working with people who truly use the techniques, truly use the tradition to create outcomes and goals. And if it takes some time to build, it takes some time to build, but I want to do it from the truth, even though one could. And corporations do just hire any old Yahoo to come up with mnemonic examples for people. And we don't want to do that. What we want to do is to make sure that these things actually work for people and help them so that they can go to a text like this and memorize it. Not because they followed someone else's mnemonic examples, because they know exactly what to do and how to do it. And so that enables people to have incredible resources at their fingertips when they are enabled to serve people. But I know not everybody's going to learn the internet as much as I have. And they might be incredibly skilled with all this stuff, but not the internet necessarily. So if there's ways for me to enable the right people to do that, reach out, because there's so much to be done for so many people when we can bring that laser focus. So, you know, algebra, if that's a passion, let's make it happen for people. Arabic, David, if I remember that's what you were doing correctly, let's make that possible for people. This is the most amazing and very good thing that we can do, is to teach it from the truth. And that's what I would love to do. So that's what I'm working on. And I would absolutely love to see you join the mission, if that's right for you. All right. So let me know if there are any last questions or comments, and really work this through, because if you finish the Nirvana Shadow Cam, I think it's really going to help you. If you can memorize that text or any of these texts, it'll help you, because it helps you begin to understand that you are not the mind that is causing stress in your body. And the body that is producing the stressful thoughts is appearing in you, and you can instantly take command over it by using language to neutralize it. Remember, that's what it says in verse 5 of the Atma Bodha. Constant practice neutralizes ignorance, as a base neutralizes an acid, purifying the individual self. Anytime that you are caught up in the present moment, you are in this ignorance, right? Constant practice of the self is what it says. Neutralizes ignorance like a base neutralizes an acid, purifying the individual self. And we just can't be caught up in this. We can't. Because now is when life is happening. And when these thoughts come in, they take away from the now. And that beaming, beautiful, perfect light of the now, it's all we got. It's all we truly have. And that's because we are the now. And if you're switched on to that, it will help you. It'll help you. It'll help you quit drinking, as CH is asking. How I managed to quit drinking? Hit rock bottom, my friend. And then made the decision, and I had support. So Jonathan Levy and I quit drinking at the same time. We quit drinking together. You can hear us on the podcast the last time that he drank, and the penultimate last time that I drank, because I drank one more time after that, which was stupid. But that's the way that it is. But if I were to boil it down, it's make the decision, commit to it, and have support. Have some people that are good. So many people, like I tried to get out of drinking before that, but it was not possible because I had people in my life that were drinking and drinking and drinking. And that just doesn't work. It doesn't matter how much willpower you have. It doesn't matter how much of a good person you are. If you constantly put yourself in front of the tractor beam pulling you towards the booze, it's going to happen. It's going to happen. So you need to change the external world so that you're not interrupted by these people. It's really, really important. It's really, really important. So, let me know if you have more questions around that. But that's the number one thing, is just to remove the people that brought alcohol into the realm, and then have the support of people who aren't drinking. And Jonathan Levy, if you don't know him from Super Learner, check out his stuff. That was huge to have him and quit with me. And I'm pretty sure to this day he hasn't had any more. I don't know. We haven't talked about it for a while. But the last time we did talk about it, he hadn't either. And that was, maybe a year ago or so. But it's no good. It's no good in any way. Amrit is in the house. I can't find more memory palace than they are limited. How to make them infinite? Well, Is infinite the goal? Is that the right goal, Amrit? Could you rephrase this in a way that is more realistic? Are you infinite? Well, maybe you are, but see if you can't rephrase that question, and then we'll answer it more specifically. But the first thing that you do is to rephrase the question to something more practical than infinite. CH says, do you miss any part of it, though? Social aspect, for example. Well, the CH, this is the thing. When you decide to live at your highest possible self, what social aspect would ever involve alcohol? It's poison, right? You've got to develop that kind of value. There's all kinds of social things you can do with people for whom alcohol is not in their lives. So why would you have to live without a social aspect just because you don't drink alcohol? It can take that radical change, but it's worth it. No, I don't miss it. There's one time, I remember, John McFedrin, who's been on the podcast to talk about learning German and music mnemonics, he and I went to see Iced Earth. And I'd been sober, completely sober, for maybe a year and a half or something like that. And for about 3 minutes, I smelled the beer everywhere. This is Berlin, right? So there's beer everywhere. And I just thought, and concerts, there's so many concerts. I don't even remember anything about them because I was so drunk before the band I went to see even hit the stage, which is just to my shame. But that's the way it is, and I don't, the past is the past. But for just a second, I was like, wow, it'd be nice to have a beer to watch Iced Earth. And then it was gone. And how was it gone? It just was, because I knew that I had higher goals. And I don't miss it, CH. I do not miss a single part of it. None of it whatsoever. Of course, you might not have been through so much hell with alcohol as I have, because alcohol was not just hell when I was drinking, but it was hell when I was a kid because of others drinking. Sachit says, I agree. I haven't ever drunk alcohol. Well, that's great. You're very fortunate. And, I don't really think of, well, if I could change the past, what would I change or whatever. But if there was one thing, I would deeply consider not ever having alcohol be part of it whatsoever. Anyway, CH, I don't know if that's useful to you or not. I don't mean to turn it into a black and white sort of situation, but I can tell you that a person who helped with this book, after reading it, she told me that she said she decided to get rid of alcohol because, and it was interesting, I never really realized that it was this in depth. But she said that she suddenly got so much time and mental space back because she was no longer thinking about, well, a nice white wine would go well with this dinner tonight. Where am I going to get the best possible white wine? Oh, well, I'll have to drive across town. And, but they're going to be closing, but maybe they'll stay open. And maybe if I knock on the door. And then this whole blah, 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 blah starts up. And it's just gone by no longer needing alcohol. Not even just one glass of wine to go with the fish. This whole world of, I'll have to get gas on the way. And all this stuff just disappears, right? You want to stop thinking. Get rid of alcohol, because now all this apparatus around it is gone. Not only that, but you'll reduce stress in your life just simply because you don't have a toxin that your body is having to deal with. Again, it's not going to be for everybody, but it's something to consider. And it's just purely logical to consider. And I don't miss it at all. Not at all. Except for that one time that was brief for a few minutes. And then I just got down to enjoying the music again, which I did. So that's really important. And, probably, even though I don't see a direct connection, working with the Sanskrit, I don't need it at all. You see, if you go back to listen to the Sam Harris podcast with Daniel Kahneman, or Kahneman, depending on how it's pronounced there, they talk, or Sam Harris mentions in that podcast, heroin level meditation techniques. And I believe the meditation that I've been doing pretty much counts as heroin level because it feels so good. I don't know if Nick is still here, but he was telling me that that maybe it started to kick in for him as well. It's hard to believe that it could be so good, but man, does it ever feel good. I was so worried when I started to feel good all the time. I thought, man, I must be having a manic episode or something. But it really does feel like something's just switched on in the head, like a light is on, and it's just beaming with pleasure all the time. It never stops. So what would you need alcohol for? You're just totally in the present moment, feeling so great, so blissful, so joyful. And it's kind of weird too. Like I remember worrying about myself a little bit when my wife was quite ill now, a year ago, but or was it 2 years ago? No, was it? Yeah, maybe it was 2 years ago. No, it must have been a year ago. She was so ill, and part of me was so calm and focused, and this blissful thing was still on, even though I'm in a panic, I'm worried, and yet calm and centered and focused. And you couldn't not be, because it's like someone's just injected you with this bliss. And it's weird. I mean, friends who know me, I'm still like a human in the world. Blah, blah, blah. You know, I can quatch about all kinds of stuff just like anybody else, and kvetch and blah, 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 and this is that and blah, 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 blah. But at the same time, it's just, it's so awesome. And Samuel, you're right. It is a future topic. MPs in flow state. Now, in the victorious mind over there, I still have to come up with a mnemonic to remember that way. In the victorious mind, I talk about how to generate that flow state. I talk about Mihai Csikszentmihalyi and his research. And you can read all about it by going to magneticmemory-method.com/VM. And if I get your receipt, I'll send you over a free little mini course. But one of the things I think you'll love about it is it's almost guaranteed to happen if you just do the practices. And as Gary Weber describes it, and he's also got a PhD and refers to all the scientific studies that you would need, basically, the reason why we have so much pain and suffering is we're locked in what's called the default mode network. Blah, blah, blah is right here. Blah, 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 blah is right here. Default mode network. I, me, tomorrow, yesterday. Oh, no, I don't want to be here. I want to be over there. And you're fantasizing about some other thing. Blah, 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 blah. But the zone, the flow state, is produced by the task positive network. And you can get there and you can stay there. You can wake up there in the morning and you can go to sleep there at night. And one of my new experiments is to stay awake while sleeping. And apparently some of the people who practice these techniques for long enough, they never technically went to bed. They just were awake all night. Now, I don't know if that's true or not, but I've started the odd time having these experiences, and it's not lucid dreaming. It's really weird. You're laying there, you know your body is asleep and you're resting, but you're just wide awake. Anyway, I don't know that it can be permanent or whatever. All kinds of legends build up around this stuff, of course, so we don't even know how true it was for the people about whom the legends are told. But in my own experience now, having had it happen quite a few times, knowing lucid dreaming from experience, knowing a lot of sleep experiments that I've done, like doing a lot of shavasana, for example, I'm definitely asleep, but I'm not asleep, just in this bliss of the present moment, unbothered, just completely exactly what this text promises, which is, Shivoham, which just means being everything. And now everything doesn't mean everything, but it means just the present moment, being totally connected with just the present moment. That's flow state. That's the task positive network. And we fall into it in everyday life all the time. So think of it. You're watching a movie. You're totally engrossed in the movie. It's like you are those characters, right? Who's watching Better Call Saul right now? I mean, I notice this when I'm watching Better Call Saul. Boom! All of a sudden I realize, wow, I just watched this episode of Better Call Saul. Totally engrossed in the story. Now, you might call that vicarious experience, but it's also just task positive network. You're in the present moment, and like the most exciting parts of movies like The Matrix. Ooh, yeah, run, punch, kick, jump, sweat, bleed. Woo! You're just in there. You're in that task positive network. Some people, daredevils, they climb mountains without ropes to be in that task positive network. But Sam Harris talks about this all the time. He calls it heroin level in that one episode, which I'll never forget because I was like, wow, that is probably what this is. You can get there all the time. How that I do it, we can talk about it right now, Samuel. Every day, I go. This morning, I sit and I go through all this Sanskrit. And then when thoughts come up, I just shut them down instantly using a variety of tools. We've talked about some of those tools today. They are discussed in depth in the Victorious Mind with how are we going to do this? So to point there, we need some kind of signal. Yeah, well, maybe that will do. Anyway, we go deep into this, and it's just a fun thing to have written the book, to share the story, how I figured it all out, share the science in depth, why and how it works, and give you some tactics and strategies to do it. It's kind of Zen, and I would just suggest that once you get started, keep going, keep researching, keep reading, keep practicing, keep deepening, and add as much as you can. So after I'm not done with that's done. After I'm done with this, memorizing all that stuff, then I'm going to start to memorize the Ashtavakra Gita. At least that's what my little I mind thinks. That's what this mind thinks. Nobody knows what's going to happen. Could fall over dead tomorrow, which maybe not a bad thing. But the thing is, I don't know that I am going to do that, but that's my plan. This is plan. But the Ashtavakra Gita just really attracts me for some reason. But I'm sort of a stubborn completist. So I finished this. I finished this book, Evolving Beyond Thought. And so now I got to finish this one. And this is a ton of stuff to work on. But I'm getting there. And it's beautiful. It sounds beautiful. It feels beautiful. And by doing it every day, that flow state is constantly reasserted. And it grows. The compound value of it grows. Which means read and write and speak and listen about it, memorize, recite from memory so that you're able to just have it as every possible part of your being. This should accelerate the switch for you. All right. So I hope that helps. And yeah, just sing. I mean, I think personally the singing has been huge. I don't know if it's for everybody. I don't know if it will work for everybody, but I predict that it would for the majority of people. And you don't have to do it in front of an audience, but it's just so nice. And I don't care who sees me. I walk around singing it. I sit in the park. People walk past me while I'm sitting in the park, and I'm just singing away the Sanskrit. And it's just, nobody seems to care. Nobody seems to notice. I don't. I'm not even there, right? There is no I there to care, right? Because the I is an illusion. Who would care? Who would have thoughts about this? Nobody cares. And that's how you have bliss, is just to not to buy into the illusion that there's anybody there to have concerns about these things. And that's what this text is so good about teaching you. So maybe we'll just sort of go through the whole thing. I don't have it all up on slides, but I'll read it to you. And it's so beautiful. So basically, the sound of it all is Manobu Jahankara Chitani Naham Nacha Shrotra Jivhi Nacha Krana Nitri Nacha Vyoma Bhumir Natejo Navayu Chitananda Rupaha Shivoham Shivoham Chitananda Rupaha Shivoham Shivoham Nacha Prana Sanyo Nava Panchavayu Nava Septa Datur Nava Panchakosha what is it now? Nacha Panchakosha Navak Panipadam Nacho Pastapayu. You're seeing the first live performance of it. Chitananda Rupaha Shivoham Shivoham Chitananda Rupaha Shivoham Shivoham Name Dvesharago Name Lopamoho Madonaiva menaiva matsarya bhava. Na dharmo na charto na kamo na moksha. Chitananda rupaha shivoham shivoham. Chitananda rupaha shivoham shivoham. Na punyam na papam na saukyam na dukam. Na mantro na tirtam na veda na yagna. Aham bhojanam neva bhojanam na bhokta. Chitananda rupaha shivoham shivoham. Chitananda rupaha shivoham shivoham. Na murcham na shankar na meti jabedaha. Peta naiva me naiva mata na janma. Na bandhur na metram guru naiva shishaha. Chitananda rupaha shivoham shivoham. Chitananda rupaha shivoham shivoham. Aham nirvikalpo nirakara rupo. Vibhuvyapya sarvatra sarvendriyana. Sada me samatvam na muktir na bandha. Chitananda rupaha shivoham shivoham. Chitananda rupaha shivoham shivoham. It's so nice. It's so nice. I mean, I don't know how it sounds, but anyway, complain to the manager if I don't sing very well. But it's very, very good to do that. And as I'm going through it, I'm thinking of the meanings of what it's saying, and this really, really helps reassert the present moment. And because of the singing and being in your ears and so forth, it's very, very nice, and it lasts. It's like hitting a gong that lasts with you and sticks with you throughout some time. And the more you do this every day, every day, every day. And so anyway, there's like 100 of these phrases all together, and I sing them, and they're beautiful. Ultimate Fighter, thanks for joining us. Hit thumbs up, get subscribed if you're not already subscribed. And if you're joining us, let me know where you are in the world, what you're doing, what you're thinking, how things are going for you. And that text is very useful for reducing mental stress. And so if we go through the English meaning of all that, I think you'll find it very useful. And it's just reasserting that you're not the mind. And it says, I'm not the mind that thinks or imagines, the intellect that categorizes and decides, the ego or the I sense, which springs into being as the doer, nor the memory. And that's very important too, right? Because our memories that come up, they can torture us. They can cause bliss, but they can also torture us. And it says we're not space. We're not any of these things. We're not the ears that hear, the tongue that tastes, the nose that smells, the eyes that see, nor the sense of touch. We're not composed of the elements of space, earth, fire, or water. We are awareness and uncaused happiness. If we really pay attention to that present moment, that's what we are. We are that present moment. And it says we're not the energy force that activates the body. We're not the energies that subdivides it into all of these different functions of the body. We're not the focal points that represent energy. We're not the theory of chakras. We're not any of these things. We're not the organs of action. We're not the activities. And it goes through that we're not the likes or the dislikes. We're not pride. We're not the longing for security. Charto is what that word is. And I love that the Sanskrit works that way. It creates an image for you, which is what I used. We're not the good deeds. We're not the bad ones. We're not the karma. We're not the pleasure. We're not the pain. We're not the sin. We're not the experience. We're not the sense. And it just goes through this. We're not death. We're not any of these things. We're not the qualities of our skin or our age or our education or anything like that. We are just the present moment. That's what we are. And it is folly if we bring any of that other stuff into it. It's just pure folly. And so knowing it, just dwelling upon it in this foreign language, having the gist of what it means in mind. You can go and memorize the English as well, but just having the gist is great for me. That's what I like. Ripu Gita, I did all the English stuff, and that was worth it as well. But for this, that's just good enough. And just bringing that song to mind. And apparently the origin of this is that Adi Shankaracharya, who wrote it, I think it was circa 800 CE, somewhere around that period. No one's exactly sure. Apparently someone said, "Who are you?" And this is what his answer was. He is not any of these things, but he's just the present moment. So that, I think, should help you reduce stress in your life, is just understand that no matter what else is going on, no matter how it's appearing in your consciousness, what else are you except for this moment? And if you can just choose to think thoughts that are better or no thoughts at all, then the quality of that present moment can instantly improve. And there are tools to make it happen. And if you practice them and you train with them, it will happen. I know it because I've seen it happen, and I didn't believe that it could. I was so skeptical. But in for a penny, in for a pound. We see this again and again and again in the memory world. People are so skeptical. I don't believe the techniques will work. But they do if you work them, because they're not going to happen on autopilot. But autopilot does take over if you practice them long enough. And any information you want to memorize, you just instantly start making associations so quickly because you've trained yourself to do it. So if you want easy street, just lay the foundations. Do the practice, and then it will be easy. Like tying your shoes, or using chopsticks, or picking your nose. I mean, all this stuff, right? Anything that you want to do, you can do. You just have to practice. You have to earn it. And earning it, fortunately, is very easy and fun. So if you don't have the free course at magneticmerrymethod.com, make sure to go and get it. And if you want the new book, it's called The Victorious Mind, on pre-order now. Really appreciate everybody who has been getting it already. Send in your receipt for an additional free course called How to Stop Thinking that gives you some of these techniques in writing with simple exercises. Get that over to you as soon as possible. Thank you, everybody, for being here today. Great to see Adolfo and CH. Thank you for your compelling questions. Thanks also to Samuel and to Barden and Oliver and One Hiccup and Grant. Everybody, Tony, Time Lord. Good to see Time Lord again. Alex was here. Pepper, wonderful questions. Nick, Austin Studies, always awesome to see you all. And I hope that you have a great rest of your week. Keep fit. Get in touch if you need anything from the world of memory. If I can serve, I will. The next video will be coming out as soon as we can get it out to you. It's a big one. And by big, I mean a few different things. But if you're serious about mastering memory, the things that Yates and so many instructors leave out of the so-called ad horennium pattern, which is that teaching of the memory palace again and again and again, I packed them into this video so that you can fully understand what this ancient text means, and then you can get the full value out of it. And I showed you Bruno's use of it in a book that I guess is over there now. Where did it go? Oh, here it is. It was right in front of me. This is the book. This is the master key text on the shadows of the ideas. So the next video, if you want to understand this, which is very hard to understand, admittedly, you need the next video that comes out on this channel. It will be part 2 of On the Art of Memory. And we're going to go deeper and deeper and deeper into it. So get subscribed if you're not subscribed. I'm going to talk about this work it out, figure it out, and enable you, empower you, and inspire you to get it sorted out. So reach out if you have questions. Hit that thumbs up if you haven't already. Get subscribed to this channel if you aren't already. Come to magneticmemorymethod.com and grab your copy of Victorious Mind. Really appreciate all the time that we get to spend together. And until we speak again, keep yourself magnetic. Bye-bye.
Hey everybody, so I'm here in the Atlanta airport. I was just thinking about how grateful and thankful I am for what Anthony did for me. I do seminars all across the country, usually have about 100 to 300 people every single weekend, and one of my biggest goals was to be able to memorize their names, and started studying some stuff and learning, and it wasn't connecting as fast as it needed to, and I just wasn't connecting the dots, and started doing some research online, and there I found Anthony. And Anthony, I just want to tell you thank you very much for all that you've done. Now, man, my memorization is through the roof. I've almost reached my goal of getting 300 people at one time. I'm not exactly there yet. I'm off just by a few, but I'll get there as I keep practicing and keep connecting what I've learned from you and what you've put and you've helped me with. And so I just want to tell everybody, if you're looking to take your memory palaces and your memory techniques to the next level, I mean, Anthony's the guy. If he can help me go from not even remembering people's names, and that's the biggest issue of my life in my seminars, to actually being able to memorize over 100 and something people's names, close to 200, man, he can help any of you guys out with anything. So I just want to give a shout out to Anthony. Very thankful, very grateful for meeting you. Very thankful for the fact that as soon as I sent you an email, you responded very quickly, very promptly. You just opened up your time and gave me a scheduled time very quickly also. And the support afterwards was well above and beyond. I mean, you could have ended it right there, but he didn't. He kept emailing me and make sure I was okay, and would send me emails periodically to make sure that I was following up and following through. So again, just want to thank you very much, Anthony. As I'm walking through this airport, getting ready to jump on a plane to Seattle, I was just thinking about how grateful and thankful I am for you being in my life and for helping me take those steps to the next level. And if anyone is out there is ever thinking about, should I work with Anthony, the answer is absolutely, unequivocally yes, beyond the shadow of a doubt. I could probably keep going on and on. But again, thank you, Anthony. And I really appreciate you. You've been a blessing in my life.